One can't pen a famous fantasy series without including ghosts. These beings are as much a part of popular myth as werewolves, fairies, and vampires. Though ghosts vary throughout cultures and stories, everyone has their version of them. And on one fact, everyone agrees. Ghosts are the souls of the dead who aren't so dearly departed. Instead, ghosts are the undeparted, the souls of the dead who haven't properly passed on. And in the world of Harry Potter, ghosts are fairly traditional. Their effect on the plot is minimal, especially in the films. But the lives of ghosts can be as lively, pun intended, and wild as those of the living. Ghosts who linger still have goals, hopes, dreams, and insecurities. In a way, ghosts are sad, because they have all the problems they did while still alive, usually with little to no chance of solving them. Prominent ghosts throughout the series include Nearly Headless Nick, Moaning Myrtle, and Helena Ravenclaw, also known as the Grey Lady, who helps Harry to locate her mother's diadem. However, the films, while technically showing the other castle's ghosts, don't allow them more than 2-second cameos. Other denizens include the Fat Friar and the Bloody Baron, the latter of whom has his own dark history. The ghosts of the Harry Potter world are magical, fun, and occasionally creepy, but even with the likes of Nick or Myrtle, they are largely overlooked. Before we continue, I'm Riley and this is Otherworldly Fiction. On this channel, I discuss fantasy books, rant about characters and lore, offer bookish opinions, and share the occasional writing advice. If any of this sounds like your cup of ectoplasm, hit that subscribe button. Posts are on Fridays. The ghosts of the wizarding world, like their counterparts in myth, have a tragic side to them. In fact, it's noted in the original Pottermore writings that if a wizard is wise enough, he won't choose to remain as a ghost. This is because ghosts, while seeming to continue their old lives, can only experience a fraction of what they did before. Anything they enjoyed previously, which required touch, such as eating or drinking, is impossible for them. As a result, if ghosts choose to have parties, they'll often surround themselves with rotten food, because it is the only way they can taste anything. The odors are intense, and ghosts will pass through the food just to enjoy some semblance of flavor. Those who linger as ghosts typically, as seen in standard stories, do so because they have unfinished business. Some might feel they didn't do what they wanted to while alive. Some feel bad for past transgressions. Some are frightened of what comes next, opting to remain with the familiar, and others still are simply attached to the mortal world. Furthermore, ghosts can't develop or change as living people do. Their personalities and emotions are static. As such, people can find ghosts frustrating to hang out with, as they are, quite literally, frozen in the past. Even after several hundred years, ghosts will fixate on the same issues. Whatever mattered to them when they died, in their time, is what will still matter to them 300 years later. Such inflexibility explains the behavior of Nearly Headless Nick, who, year after year, expresses frustration over his inability to join the Headless Hunt, and who bemoans the indignity of his death, in which his head was only partially removed from his body. The activities of the Headless Hunt require complete decapitation, as the group will use their heads in sports. As such, Nick, with his head still technically attached, can't participate, a fact which reminds him how crappy his death was to begin with. As for figures like Peeves, the trickster which plagues the halls of Hogwarts isn't technically a ghost at all. Ghosts, despite appearing solid, have no more effect on the environment than smoke. They can move water, fire, and air to some extent, and they can cause a fire to turn blue, but when it comes to solids like walls or furniture, they'll simply drift right through. Peeves, however, can take a physical form. He can wear clothes given to him. He can lift objects into the air, throwing them at or hitting people as he desires, and he can affect the world around him. He can also turn invisible, terrifying people by suddenly appearing beside them. An attempt was made to remove Peeves, but when this resulted in Peeves using weapons, including swords and blunderbusses, willy-nilly, it was given up. Peeves is a poltergeist, and while poltergeists are conflated with ghosts, they are technically different entities. Ghosts are those who have died, but who refuse to move on. Poltergeists, on the other hand, are created by concentrations of energy. Teenagers in particular, especially when gathered together, can create, through their energy, the circumstances needed for a poltergeist to form. Poltergeists can affect more than ghosts, with those like Peeves loving to cause problems and play pranks. But Peeves, whatever his superior abilities, is still capable of respect and fear. As a general rule, Peeves won't bother the teachers while they're leading lessons. And he has a fear of Hogwarts' most notorious ghost, Slytherin's own Bloody Baron. Like wizards are fantastical creatures, ghosts are strictly magical in nature. Muggles never turn into ghosts. All ghosts seen are wizards, and as magical entities, they, like dragons or spells, are protected under the statute of secrecy. Only wizards can see ghosts, whereas muggles, on entering a haunted house, will simply have the sense of the place being unnerving or creepy. Most who claim to see ghosts are fibbing, but some wizards, even knowing they're technically breaking the law, flaunt their ability to see ghosts to muggles, trying to earn a name for themselves despite their lack of accordance with the rules. Moreover, there is a certain irony to ghosts, as despite their being dead, they can't answer the most pressing questions people have in regards to death itself. If someone wants to know what happens when you die, or where you go, ghosts can't answer these questions because they chose to forego any of those experiences in order to continue their existences on the mortal plane. Therefore, death remains much of a mystery to wizards, despite their being surrounded by the dead. Finally, the ghosts in the Harry Potter books, like their traditional counterparts in myths and legends, are cold. If one makes the mistake of passing through a ghost, they will feel as though they've just been tossed into frigid water. The area around a ghost is also chilly, but when several ghosts gather at once, such as to host a death day party, temperatures in the room they occupy will turn to freezing. Add to these icy temps the stench of rotting food, and you'll have parties which, while wonderful for the dead, are rather uncomfortable for any living people in attendance. In conclusion, the ghosts of the wizarding world are fairly standard. They make rooms cold, they can pass through walls, and they represent those who have died. Rowling kept the entities fairly traditional, but the ghosts of the wizarding world are far from dull. Instead, what makes the ghosts of Hogwarts stand out is their many personalities. From Myrtle's propensity to drive girls from her bathroom through her tears, to Nick's bitterness over his unusual death, the ghosts come alive, pun intended, throughout the series. Sadly, the films left out much of what made the ghosts so fun. Peeves was scrapped entirely from the movies, leaving fans with a poltergeist-shaped hole in their hearts. And even less is known of the brooding Bloody Baron or the jolly Fat Friar. However the films handled them though, ghosts are a fun and integral part of the Hogwarts experience. They're just one more part of the wizarding world which endears readers to the magical, and one can only hope that, when the world is revisited again, ghosts are permitted a greater spotlight. Do you wish more of the ghosts had been included in the films? Which ghost is your favorite from the series? Would you want to meet a ghost? Sound off in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and happy reading.